right, everyone. Happy day. It is Monday. If you didn't know, Monday is my favorite day of the week. Hit the horn for Monday. It is Monday, November 28th. It is 37 degrees in Kitsap County. It is quite cold, unfortunately. Make sure I'm coming in good there. All right, sounds like I am. And so, as Mondays, as we do, we have the executive director of KCR, Tony Ives, coming with us today to give us his digital newsletter. So let's go ahead and give him applause. How you doing there, Tony?
I'm good, Marwan. I'm blessed. How are you doing?
I am the same. I'm feeling pretty good, trying to stay safe because I don't want to get sick like this RSV or whatever that is going around. So I'm a little terrified of it.
No, I'm the same way. I don't even know how that gets transmitted. And it's just one thing after another, right? When somebody says they're sick, I'm like, COVID is gone now. It seems like, no, RSV, I don't have COVID. I'm like, okay, well,
Well, hopefully we'll have Dr. Gibb on soon because COVID is making a resurgence. And right now, all of the 20% of all new cases are Omicron, 80% are a new variant. So we'll get Dr. Gibb on and have a conversation
yeah,
about
he's pretty cool. He called me last week. I'm going to hang out in front of the KPHD board next week.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah.
So we haven't seen you in a while. So you want to kind of fill us in? You want to talk about the fun stuff? You want to get right into it, sprinkling the fun stuff?
It's been a long time, but let's talk about your holiday, Marwan. How was it? How's your family?
So the family as well, but for me, my holiday I spent inside. I didn't eat any holiday food. I actually, I'm very embarrassed to say, I had Arby's curly fries out of the freezer and cheese hot dogs. I was living like a college student. So the funny thing is even though I do all this extroverted things, I'm very much an introvert. So whenever I get a chance to withdraw and recharge, I take advantage of it. So it was fantastic, very peaceful.
That's good. That's great. Well, I did cook.
Oh, what'd you cook?
Yeah, I cooked. I cooked for the family. My sister, she was in charge of the bean pies and the greens. Of course, she forgot the greens on Thursday, so I had to go find them. Right, it
Hmm.
wasn't easy, but yeah, it was great. Family was great, and yeah, that Thanksgiving is just one of my favorite days of the year because you don't have to buy anything and you can just be with your family and friends and be thankful that you're alive and thankful for things that for each other. So,
So you got to tell us the secret now. Where do you find greens last minute? Because that is hard to do in Kitsap
I,
County.
you know what? I went to Gig Harbor. I was out in the Key Peninsula for Thanksgiving, and three of the markets I called. None of them had it. I went all the way to Gig Harbor to the Fred Meyer's over there and grabbed some greens. It was a trek, but had to do it. Right.
All right. Shout out to the Fred Meyers
She
and
had
Gig
one task: make the greens, and she didn't buy the greens.
Well, hopefully she doesn't watch this because she's being put on blast today.
No, I should have talked about her. um,
So what's happening with KCR? I know you want to talk about the community needs assessment. There have been the focus groups, which have been fantastic. I know the NAACP has got one coming up here soon. So yeah, jump right on in there.
okay, so it's been a while. It's been since the end of October since I've been on, and a lot has happened. So we're working to basically scrub data, prepare the dashboard, and going through focus groups. I'm going to talk a little bit about that as we go forward. But again, I just want to credit all of our partners, all of our community partners, Kids of Immigration and Kids of Regional Libraries and United Way, Molina Health, Riverton Housing Authority, everybody that's been involved in this process, even the Riverton City Council and Kitsap County government. And we wouldn't have had this type of response without help from everyone. So I think I mentioned we had over 4,500 respondents, and now getting into the focus groups and digging deeper into questions and answers that maybe you can't see just using data. And so that's what we've been doing before, or doing now anyway. I want to give special thanks to Kids of Public Health, Gil's team, that's Carrie Hunter and Jessica Guidry and Maria Fergus. Maria has been instrumental in being part of the focus groups, and taking notes and asking questions. So really appreciate the entire team, and it's great to work together. So,
Fantastic.
so if I go too quickly, Marwan, just stop me. Just
Okay.
ask questions. I'm trying to fill time. Last time I thought I couldn't use an hour, but it turned out I could use an hour and a half. But I don't know if it's going to be like that this time. So we've had about 7 focus groups so far, and we have 5 more set up. And
Okay.
you mentioned the NAACP. We've got one for the LGBTQIA community as well. We're trying to do a focus group with folks that are frankly right outside of our building. The population, that's vulnerable population, and hopefully we'll get that set up as well. And then a couple of more. So last week, last week was Thanksgiving week. It just seems like so long ago. The week before, we had 2 focus groups. One of them was with the Bremerton Black Student Union. Hey, Black, come back on. There we go. The Bremerton Black Student Union. We maybe had almost 30 people here um, that night. It was a Thursday night, I believe, or Tuesday night, and it was a long night, but the turnout was fantastic. We did have representatives from the community and representatives from the NAACP, but there were a strong turnout by the Black Student Union, and we appreciated um, what they said and how they answered questions, and talking even about certain things that weren't addressed in the survey. For example, bullying in schools, and um, and how do you address that in a survey? But parents were at that meeting and students were at that meeting, and they were talking about, that was one of the topics of discussion: bullying, and even some racism. So that's the point of these focus groups. It's stuff you just can't pick up with a data driven survey. It's the anecdotal things that are important, and we're we're collating that into the final results. Okay. Hi, Kendra. Nice to see you, Kendra. Hey, so the second one we did was with the Suquamish tribe, and that was equally cool. Um, we had elders and tribal members there. Josh Bagley. He's the vice chair for the tribal council. He was there, and this particular focus group, we heard things that we hadn't heard in other focus groups, and it was from their perspective over out in Suquamish, and it was great. Um, we talked. I'm going to talk about that. They, one common thing was transportation. Transportation keeps coming up in each focus group, or the lack of transportation. For the tribe, they're way out in Paulsville, way up there, and transportation is just hard to find. That includes getting to services, getting to, even to fish line, which is the food bank, getting to doctor's appointments, and the tribe can't do it all. It's the lack of transportation in Kitsap County, or the inability to go anywhere after 5 o'clock, or Sunday transportation. So that's a common theme that we're seeing in each focus group, and we appreciate those responses. Well, the one thing that they did say, our services aren't local, but I mentioned you, Marwad. I did. because maybe there's a niche there that can be solved.
Let me ask you, Tony. That's interesting to hear it mentioned at every focus group, which is surprising. Um, is there some ways that we can be intentional about connecting and filling that gap? Because I think sometimes it's like, oh hey, and I appreciate it. Like yeah, shout out G2. But what can we do to fill that? Because folks getting to doctor's appointments or mental health appointments or where they need to go is critical, and whatever it is, right? If it's health, whatever else they're talking about, if it's bullying, what can we do tangibly to really put a dent in the issues that are coming up?
Well, the first question, transportation, I don't know, but I know Kids of Transit will be paying close attention to this. And in fact, I'm going to have a meeting with someone from Kids of Transit this week. I believe Jason Driver from KRL. He facilitated that meeting, and I'm going to talk about this. KCR certainly can't solve that problem or doesn't have the solution to that problem, but I, I not just Suquamish, but the Black Student Union, Birmingham Black Student Union, is funny because one young woman said the buses go down 11th Street and nobody lives on 11th Street, right? we just started laughing because it was funny. But the routes of the buses affect um, people and how they can't move around and
Yeah.
how hard it is, right? So
You'd be surprised to know how many people we transport to work swing and graveyard shifts and picking them up. Um, yeah, it's a huge, huge barrier here in this county for sure.
Marwan, I wouldn't be surprised at all. But hopefully, one of the results of this community needs assessment is for organizations like Kids of Transit and like KCR to use it to better shape their strategic plan going forward. Just identifying what the needs are, and then 3 to 5 years, what could we do and what should we look like? What are the ways to solve these? What are the needs that are identified, the greatest needs, and how each partner, each organization around Kitsap County goes about trying to solve it. So we wanted to identify transit in the actual data part of the survey, which we'll look at a little later, but also in the needs in the focus group, how every single focus group had mentioned it. The second thing, um, you know, Kitsap, the Central Kitsap School District, they helped us with this needs assessment too, and as well as the Bremerton School District. Since we were talking to students, which it was our first focus group, this was kind of the first time we talked about bullying, and certainly it wasn't one of our questions, but how we run the focus group, how our project manager Chelsea runs it, is we ask a question and then it basically leads to a lot of different discussions, and that was one of them. Um, Certainly, awareness is one thing. One parent was talking about security in schools. I don't have the answer to that, but again, Marwan, if the school districts recognize it and the schools recognize that it's happening and it's just not a one-off you know event, then that's the first step.
Mhm.
Right. I don't
Absolutely.
know, Marwan, what do you think?
Well, what I was thinking while you were speaking was, oftentimes we can get caught up in waiting for the larger organizations to do something for KCR or Kitsap Transit. But I would encourage individuals and smaller organizations to look within and say, okay, so what can we do to bridge that gap? Right? We have to kind of reach out with both sides. So, in regards to transportation, it's like, hey, I said, hey, G2. It's like, all right, so what do we need to do to help bridge that gap and create relationships with folks that don't know who we are and try to meet those needs? So, I just encourage people to do that, and smaller organizations for sure.
Right. So, uh, going back to the Suquamish focus group, real quick, they talked about simple things that I'm sure isn't just unique to the tribe. It's the elders, they have a hard time filling out forms. And so
Mhm.
they need help with that. I imagine that isn't unique to the tribe, but to the community, the demographic that's above 60 or 70 years old, that they also have that. Shoot, Maran, I have a hard time filling out forms. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And for that particular thing to come up, that was the first time that someone has said that. But as soon as the group said it, I said, okay, yeah, I could see how that would happen. How can KCR help with that? For example, our weatherization project, it could be difficult to fill out. And there's all these documents that are required, not by KCR, but by the government, by Department of Commerce and this and that. And it's tiring and hard to do. And if I was an elder, it would probably be near impossible. And what we suggested with the Suquamish tribe is that maybe we embed somebody over there for a day or two and go through the process. Or maybe we train someone there at the tribe to do that work, and then we come out and pick up all of the paperwork to process it. So our weatherization team, for example, there's a very specific example, okay, but so our weatherization team can go through the application process for the elders or for people that require assistance. Um, so those are things when I hear about. If Marwan, you asked how do you solve some problems, well, we're trying to solve some of the problems we could solve right away. You know, people just haven't asked. We didn't know about it.
Mhm.
Okay, we can do that, right? And just that one thing can go a long way to building a relationship. You know what I mean, Marwan?
No,
And to helping the community. So it's that one.
there's a lot of cultural, things that will prevent folks from asking from help, right? Or asking for help. Some of it is, well, you're getting, you have this opportunity, so I shouldn't ask for help. I should just be able to figure it out, and so don't ask for help. I've personally been in that situation, but then I also think of, what do I put down for the answers, and then couple that with an electronic submission, and now you've got double barriers trying to get help at crucial times. So
So
yeah.
what you just said was right, because actually I wrote that in my outline, that this was said. Elders don't want to ask for help because they won't admit that they need help, and I'm sure that is not unique to the Suquamish tribe. It's everybody, and we have to recognize that, right? So even in I mean our community, we have to recognize that's an issue. So hopefully we can come to them, come to whoever needs the help, or make it easier, decrease the barriers to getting that help. Childcare also came up, lack of affordability, and not just affordability, lack of childcare. Since COVID, a lot of childcare organizations have disappeared, and the one obstacle there is if there's no childcare or if childcare is too expensive, then that prevents the parent from working. I mean, it's
Mhm.
a catch-22, and that that was mentioned. That was also mentioned in the focus group. The one another thing that's super important that I think KCR is going to be advocating for. Well, let me back up. I've met with some of our representatives, Tara and Emily and Derek, and there's a requirement, the 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 income requirement, and it varies by program. Could be 125, 125%, could be 150, and we're advocating that it goes up to 200% because some people are just right on the edge, and so they can't qualify when they should. Again, just going back to a comment made at the Squamish focus group, middle class isn't middle class anymore. I mean, the cost of living when our parents used to be middle class, the definition was completely different than what it is now. And so a lot of the rules, a lot of the income requirements are outdated and they need to be adjusted. And so just lately, these last 2 weeks, a couple of our representatives, I should say, asked asked us what are, give us three things that we could advocate for in the next session. And hopefully I'm gonna try to get other groups to sign off on this. I actually was working on this morning, and that was one of the things. But if we could get, somebody from the tribe, somebody from BHA, some of our partners just to sign that letter, it shows power and strength. In fact, before I go on, if Tara or Emily is listening to this, basically that's one of the things: the increase average median income percentage for qualifying programs. The second thing is funding for housing, because a lot of that funding never gets to Kitsap County, and that's a given. The third thing is supplemental funding for our Head Start teachers. And Tara seemed to think that there used to be, well, she indicated that there used to be a Washington State supplemental fund for salaries. And for some reason, a few years ago, it went away. And I didn't know that until she told me that. And so hopefully she's going to be advocating for that. Basically, I have four asks that I think that our representatives can go to. But I digress. I digress. These things are important because a session is going to start up at the beginning of the year, and they're there to support the district, right?
Absolutely. Tony, is there one other thing that maybe KCR can do in regards to avocation? So I think about we had Kirsten Jewell on a few weeks ago from the county, and she was also talking about filling out, documentation and things like that. And that was more to do with contracts and things of that nature. But these things come down federally, and somehow the federal government and these different agencies need to change their how they collect documentation and how they ask for documentation and make it more equitable so that folks can actually apply in a way that isn't stressful and get the resources and services they need. Is there a way to have that dialogue with the federal government to see
We,
that change?
I had that dialogue with Representative Kilmer, frankly, because that's a lot of that is commerce. It's not just commerce; it's other departments as well. But we deal with a lot of commerce grants in a lot of different areas and weatherization grants, and it's so cumbersome. And in fact, a few years ago, Commerce was going to try to make it easy. Said they made it more difficult to just keep adding layers of bureaucracy and layers of documents onto everything. So, as a group, as a community action agency, about a month ago, we had a conference. And that was one of the things. All the 30 community action programs were in that room, and we all agreed with that. And there were two Congress people in the room with us, and we talked about that. So as a group, hopefully we're advocating for that together, not just KCR, but all of us, because these community action agencies reach out to the entire state of Washington and frankly nationally, so it affects everybody, all the populations that we deal with across the country. So Barwan, I'm glad you said it, and we are trying. We are talking about it. And what I found in my short tenure here at KCR is if you get a relationship with your congressperson and you pick up the phone or have one of your clients advocate more directly, they listen. It's not just something on a piece of paper or request, it's a face that they can put to our, we can say, we help this many people and this is how it will affect us. And advocacy, I've found lately is powerful, especially if you could do it as a group. There's greater impact with your voice, right?
Absolutely.
So thanks for that, Marwan, because I'll just add that to my list of four. The fourth thing that I had, Marwan, I'll just say it, was higher administrative allowances for state funded grants. They just don't keep up with the costs. So our staff, and not just our staff, but like your staff, all nonprofits that rely on grants, the grants are the requirements for the grants are old. The costs don't keep up, and we already work on shoestring budgets, and we're just asking Department of Commerce especially to loosen it up a little, so to better cover our administrative grants. So then number five was making it less complicated, Marwan, to do an application. I'm actually gonna that'll be the fifth thing before I send this out to our humble representatives. So
Yeah, that would be huge. That'll make a tremendous difference.
I'll report back to you on that one. Okay. I'm serious. This is cool. This is great. I mean, if we could talk about it here and exchange ideas and then see some progress on it and then tell everybody, that's effective. So let's see. I'm just gonna uh, briefly finish the. Wow, it's almost 10:30, Marwan. I can't believe this. I better get going. So
You always get so worried about filling time. You always
so
have more than enough.
so they mentioned food insecurity and how lots of
Mm.
members of the tribe go to Fishline, and because they have to, right? I needed to say that because Fishline was one of our sponsors for the needs assessment, and Lori Maxim was pretty key, and her staff, in helping us do the survey over there at Paulsville. And I'm just going to go back to people living paycheck by paycheck, and the food insecurity, and surprisingly, homelessness is also an issue, or housing insecurity, even there in Suquamish, even there, but all over Kitsap County.
Well, let me mention, Tony, and remind our viewers and folks that maybe didn't see last week. It was reported that Governor Inslee has now suspended the emergency COVID funds in regards to the SNAP benefit bonus. So that is going to end here at the end of November. So in December, your SNAP benefits, your food stamps won't be as large as it was before. And it's very unfortunate that it's happening now in the month of December. I mean, there's never a good month, but there's a lot of folks that celebrate the holidays, and you've got the holidays and New Year's. And so it's definitely going to be an extra hardship on top of it. So if you haven't heard that, please get that information out to individuals and families so they know, and get them to food banks and to some other resources for sure.
And support the food banks when you can, because they're an important resource all through Kitsap County. Lifeline, Fishline, Helpline, um, all through Kitsap County. They play an important role. So let's see, just briefly recapping, because I won't spend too much time on the other focus groups, but transportation, healthcare, and also what the tribe. They did mention healthcare, but really it's prescription costs is what they wanted to
Mm.
talk about. How high prescription costs were. That was the first time we've actually heard that under healthcare, so that was important.
So let me ask you, is there anything that KCR can do in regards to advocating for lower prescription costs?
Tell you what, this is why Dr. Gibb invited me to come speak in front of the board. Last week there was that. Remember that equity, that healthcare
Mhm.
summit. Well, I was talking about the focus groups and healthcare and some other things, and he called me right away and said, "Hey, can you talk about the findings of the focus group in front of the board so the board better understands this?" I don't know that KCR can directly affect it, but we can certainly advocate for it. Everybody knows there's a problem right now with the healthcare system. Prescription costs, though, that's a federal government issue,
Mhm.
and everybody knows it. I don't. My lobbyist isn't as big as your lobbyist. You know what I mean? And that's a problem with Washington D.C. But I won't get into the politics of lobbying. But something does need to be done because it is a problem. Prescription costs, especially when insurance doesn't cover it. If you have insurance.
If you right.
So, all right. Let's see. I'm going to. I'm going to pull up the dashboard, Marwan.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, you're gonna. This is interesting, and I've been going through this, so I need to share my screen.
Got the
Wait,
square there with the up arrow.
how
Let me
do I
see.
do that?
You see the little square with the up arrow?
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Can you see that?
Yeah, we can.
You're gonna love this. So this is just the first design of the dashboard, so we can see we can fool around with it. So everyone will be able to do this. All the organizations will be able to not manipulate, that's the wrong word, look at certain demographics. So let's try one. Here everything says all, right? And down below, this one question: barriers in past year for finding getting help with basic needs. Okay, you can see it here. You can see me hovering over that. I haven't had any barriers. That was 2,078 respondents, or 62%. Hasn't really had any problem. Can't afford fees or co-payments. Here we go. 353 respondents, or 10% of the survey sample. Don't want to ask for help, which is what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
256 respondents. Isn't this interesting, Marwan? And
Oh, I
then
love
if you let's just dig down into this by race. Let's just call it African American and see what it looks like. Okay, I haven't had any barrier. Now we have 40. Can't afford fees, 20 people. Don't want to ask for help. Okay, another 14. So you can even do this by district. So let's do Black in Bremerton and see how it looks like. 12 respondents haven't had any barriers. 11 can't afford fees or co-payments. 6 don't want to ask for help. And each of these tabs, I can do the same thing. So let's stay with that. That was African American in Bremerton, right?
mm-hmm.
So community services helpful in the past 12 months. Okay, 7 respondents reporting none. No services were helpful or provided. After school activities, 2 people. Childcare, again, 3. Food assistance down here, 9 folks. This is really in Bremerton. Education, 6, which is 15%. Public library, again, the question: community services helpful in the past 12 months. So 23% reported the public library. It's really interesting. So I'm just going to change that filter and put all, and
Or do
then
you have transportation? I'd love to see that one. I love that this gets so granular.
I know, Marwan, here's transportation down here, but this transportation in Bremerton, and it said 2 respondents had a barrier to that. Um, that includes evening transportation does not exist, ferry reduction and disruptions in the ferry schedule, our carpool, or don't drive. These are look at this, Marwan. This is what I find interesting. These were comments that were actually written into the survey, and
Mhm.
KPHD captured those comments for us. Parking spot in front of my house, 1 spot. Overrun by tenants and rentals having 4 cars or more. I find this really fascinating, because you could look at the data and say, oh, 2 respondents, and maybe that represents 3%. But now you have even deeper, like you said, granular information to talk about. Isn't that cool?
You know what's
Um,
interesting is I've been in some meetings with the council, and there's been conversations on reducing even more parking to build more housing. And so you definitely need to hear from the actual citizens to, ascertain what are the issues, what are the challenges that folks are having. Yeah, I love this.
I guarantee you the city council is going to love this. All the city councils and the Kitsap County commissioners are going to love this too. Let's go. Let's go a little further out. Let's go to let's go to North Kitsap, and I that's the only filter that I have here, and this is almost what you would expect. 521 respondents. They haven't had any barriers. That's 63%. Or 87% haven't used any of KCR's resources. But if you go down to the community service helpful in the past 12 months, okay, public library, 43% uses that. That's 349 respondents. Parks, recreation sports, and children's sports, that's 18%. Healthcare, 108 responded. healthcare as a community service, not healthcare that it doesn't exist, but as a community service. And mental health issues, 53% used a community service that dealt with no mental health. It's really, really interesting. And again, we tried to actually identify the places where the family or the individual receive services. We made a mistake, and I'm going to admit this because um, uh, Jennifer told me about it. PCHS, we should have had them here, but we didn't. But hopefully, we captured that into some of the, again, the comments. And the comment fields are other. For some reason, none of us put PCHS here, but we have a lot of the other ones listed. You know, the Fish Line and other food banks, BHA, Primitive Housing Authority, Primitive Food Line, your friends, United Way, South Kitsap Helpline. So we try to do a lot of the services. Clearly, we can't do them all, but respondents were able to actually list some things too. Okay, so I'm going to play. Let's go with the second tab here, housing. Okay, right now there's no filters. Okay, major housing concerns. So here, cost of utilities, not enough rental, not enough shelter space, risk of eviction, eviction, weatherization, or repairs. So here you dig into the data. Okay, 13 out of, remember, there was about 4,500 respondents. So 1,300 basically said they don't have any concerns, but another almost 1,200 say cost of rent or house payments are very much of a concern. Cost of utilities as well. 861 people said that. And I bet you going into winter, if we did that survey, it would be even more.
Oh yeah.
Right, Marwan? What
Oh
do you
yeah.
think? So not enough housing, 646 people indicated that. We all know there's a housing shortage here in Kitsap County, and then so on and so on. Who would you contact for housing assistance? Okay, I find this interesting. A friend or family member, thank God for our friends and family. 11% will go to their church. That's 333 people. And some would go to, you know, the fish lines and helpline and there's housing kits up right here. 382% would go to housing kits up or the United Way. And then 1,260 people were not sure where to go.
Wow.
And think about that, right? They weren't sure where to get housing assistance. I mean, Marwan, this is powerful information. What we were trying to do, and Chelsea always says this, is identify the gaps in services and really the gaps in information. I find this one thing here just just hard to believe, well, easy to believe, um, but an important thing that we have to solve.
Well, what's remarkable about that is, during COVID, all of the work that the county, the city, the agencies, the buying fours, all working together to get the eviction assistance out there, and that's still such a high number of folks that don't know where to go for help. So, even with all that great energy and providing those resources, there's still a lot of work to do.
To 1,200 people, Maron, 43% of our respondents said that. And that I'm so glad we have such a large sample because this would have looked different if there was only 500 respondents. But again, this is across Kitsap County, across demographics, across incomes, and you can do that. You can dig down into the data and see it. Making under 15,000, living in Port Orchard, what's the answer, right? And how many people said it? This is, information is power, right? And again, our idea along with our partners is be able to use this strategically to plan how we're going to solve problems here in Kitsap County. And I have to say, we're so lucky and fortunate of this data and all of our community partners. And we're not done with this yet because this is going to look a little prettier and a little more, colorful and easy to use. Right now, we were just kind of looking at the drop down boxes and seeing if they're enough, right?
Mhm.
And and if we need to look at the data a little differently. But this is a really good start. So if you go to the other services, which is our last tab, you can filter by school district. Remember, we wanted to identify uh, zip code where you work and zip code where you live. Remember that? We were
Right.
talking about Bainbridge Island in particular because one of the council members there, he said a lot of the city staff in Bainbridge Island can't afford to live in Bainbridge Island, right?
Ah,
But they work in Bainbridge Island, so they have to commute, which is just as wrong. But that's why we did that. But let's just put one more filter and see what it says. Let's do this one: Asian or Asian American. So barriers to employment, 67%. That's 107 folks said they hadn't no barriers. Technology, access to applications and job search. Isn't that what you were talking about, Marwan? Just the technology to fill out an application, right? And there's some respondents right there. I'm sure if you expanded this and not said you said all instead of Asian or Asian American, that number grows. Of course, lack of affordable childcare during work hours, which is what we were talking about earlier in the focus groups. Lack of training or experience. This is on barriers to education. Mental or physical disability. There's that no transportation again, Marwan, coming up right there. And then
wow.
wages are too low to cover expenses. This is the whole idea of having a living wage,
Mhm.
and it's difficult for everybody, not just not just my staff, frankly, but our nonprofit staff. But it's difficult for everybody because prices are high. But Marwan, specifically, you were asking about this again. Barriers to reliable transportation. Okay, again, this is only Asian. Or I'm gonna change this tab and say all because
Okay.
I'm curious about it. 69%, which 2,300 folks don't have barriers to reliable transportation. 786 says gas prices are too high. Some folks don't have cars, 133 people. 315 said no public transportation are near. Not enough money to maintain a vehicle, not enough money to pay for a bus fare. That's almost 100 people there. And
Wow.
then, and no, isn't this amazing? And then
Mhm.
201 people said other. So over here on the right, you can see even more. See, look at all these comments, and I'm not going to go through them, but we had 63 people respond about public trans issues. I'm going to just read a couple of these. Well, I'm not going to use the swear words here. Bus bus routes are all effed up after getting rid of 236 route. I don't know where the 236 route is, okay? But that's one thing. Buses don't run on Sunday. Bus stop is too far to walk, and buses don't run late enough for Sunday. Um, they don't know how to get an Orca pass. That's a good one. Um, um, yeah, all of these comments are interesting, and clearly folks who responded to this had something to say. Right,
Yes.
kids of bus system is barely useful. Kids of transit bus lines are extremely limited. Um, I'm not going to read all of these, but certainly the kids of transit folks are going to be very interested to see not just these comments or this data, but the other correlating data for this that deals with transportation. You talked about internet at home. Most people, it seems, have internet at home, but then some people don't. 2% here and 20% didn't respond to that question, which makes me think that the internet is probably not reliable.
Mhm.
How often do you worry about running out of food? Man, 205 people worry about it all the time. Another 525 worry about it sometimes, right? And then 830 didn't respond to that question. Um, and here down below, hopefully, are comments. There are comments here. So special dietary needs. Here's comments for cost of food. Food prices are too high. Everything is expensive. I pick and choose and shop only on sales. Inflation is taking a real toll on my ability to buy groceries that I need, including basics. sometimes wait till next paycheck to make sure we can afford everything.
Mm.
Marwan,
Yeah, it's huge. You know what I want to say here is this is really powerful, and I know there are a lot of us that have a very cynical view on is anyone listening? Is anyone going to do anything? And I love that you're doing the focus groups and coming on here and sharing that out because what it's showing is people are listening. They want to know, they're listening, they're having bigger conversations, and the next time this assessment is done, it'd be great if these numbers were to double or triple because people are actually paying attention, and that's huge, folks. You're being heard,
well,
and
Marwan, I hope people are paying attention. What my focus is, we want to hear, we want to listen, and I am so happy for these comments, and I'm so happy that 4,500 people responded to this because it takes some time, and takes some time to write down your concerns. And so
Mhm.
for all these community-based organizations will be able to see this and to read this, it's huge. By zip code, by income level, by race, right? I'm really happy and fortunate and thankful and grateful for everybody that participated in this, and this is going to be what's done. Hopefully, it will go not a long way, but some way to pushing it forward, Marwan.
Absolutely. So when will we be able to get our hands on this dashboard? I can't wait to dig into this thing.
I would say I don't want to create any expectations, but maybe no, I'm serious. We're going to get it out as quickly as possible. The we're finishing up the focus groups in December. Hopefully, a week and a half before Christmas will be our last one, and then take the holiday off, and then in January just keep collating the data, the putting the focus groups. I'm not sure the anecdotal data from the focus groups, how we're going to wrap that into the survey data that's a topic of discussion. And then by the end of January, hopefully we'll have the dashboard out on our site and on the KPHD site, and then people will just be able to drop down and dig in and see what's up. And that includes normal citizens, normal residents will be able to access the data, but more importantly, the service providers. So they could say, okay, how, how should we plan our transit strategy for the next 3 or 5 years? And what resources do we need to get there? Right.
And I'll tell you, as a smaller agency, I'm already just watching you go through the dashboard. We can, we're a small organization, but we can target by zip code and say, okay, where can we do the greatest good based on the demographics, right? And we can do a very targeted campaign to provide that transportation in different areas, and then hopefully partner with Kids Up Transit and other agencies to fill that gap. So yeah, I'm definitely excited. So lots of different ways to look at this data. So yeah, I just encourage people to look in and have those conversations, especially agencies, right? For a lot of small agencies, we may not have access to data like this because we're small. We're just kind of head down doing the work, but this really can expand our capability and what we're able to do and how we do it.
So my plan is I'll come back when we're done, probably the beginning of February, and present this on your show. But our plan is also have like a webcast, a webinar. So everybody wants to know how to use it or to see it. And initially we thought, oh yeah, me or somebody from KCR or KPHD will go around, but there's so many organizations and you just can't do that.
Mhm.
So we stick it out on YouTube, go through the data, go through the dashboard, talk about things and comments, and then everybody will have open access to it. And then if there's anything that anyone doesn't understand, they call us or call KPHD. Right?
Oh, I definitely look forward to it. Yeah,
You think
this is
that
a
that's
powerful tool.
helpful? That's helpful, right? I mean, this is cool, huh? I mean, it is powerful. It's sad too, but here it is. Here it is, and we 2 months ago we didn't have this. So anyway,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, there's a lot to be said for, we know we have some ideas on how people need help and where they need help, but hearing from folks on this is where I actually need help is super, super important. So I love
in,
this. I'm pumped.
in this zip code.
Hmm.
Right? God. So I only have about 10 minutes left. So I want to just highlight two things. I want to talk about our Christmas angel list, and this is more of a shout out or a request. So we basically have 300 families that we do case management for. Clearly, we work with a lot of more families, but this is a specific segment. Every year, we try to do um, a Christmas angel list, try to find clothes, hopefully new clothes, toys, um, games, whatever it is, jackets, boots, and shoes for all ages. Really, that's what we try to do. We we create a list based on what those 300 families need, and then thanks for putting that up, Marwan. And then try to gather support. We were really fortunate last week. Amazon gave us $10,000 for for the program. I know, super great. I just have to give them the biggest shout out of all. We're actually already receiving other donations from private folks that don't want the recognition. But Amazon, hopefully, all the funds that we get will be able to leverage that because they actually give us a pretty large discount because we're a nonprofit. So that money is actually going to go a little farther, which we appreciate that. So let's see. So our short list is basically clothing for newborns, size 3 and extra large, 3 to 3X, newborns to 3 to 3XL. Sorry, shoes and boots of all sizes, teen items. I haven't been around a teenager in a while, but anything a teenager needs, teen items. And then also, we had a few volunteers that came in that helped us last week, and even just one or two volunteers are really great. And if we basically start on January or December 1 and it goes to December 16th. Families come in and basically shop. They go to 1201 Park and shop for what they need. We set everything up in the old gym there, and that's how we're going to do it this year. So we always need volunteers, and there's if you want to volunteer, there's the link right there, and Monica would reach out. Monica Atkins, she'll reach out to you and let you know. Arwan, I appreciate you doing all of this, what you just did, especially the donations and the Christmas Angel Project. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
The
Let me just say,
oh,
donations are being accepted at 1201 Park Avenue until
yes,
December
sir.
16th.
Yes,
So
yes,
you
sir.
have a couple more weeks here to do your donations there.
We'll also take them here at 8:45, 8th. Okay, and we'll take them over there. Even today, we're having stuff delivered, and we're going to take them over. So either location works. All right.
Awesome.
So you mentioned Jill Stanton a little earlier, so I just want to talk about this. She reached out a couple of weeks ago asking if we knew of any housing projects or rapid rehousing projects. So KCR actually didn't have one. We wrote a grant for Manette, but that's a construction project. But as I started thinking about it, I approached a couple of folks, even the tribe, Suquamish, and asked them about this. And there's another local nonprofit here. This includes any type of transitional housing or permanent supportive housing that's rapid, which means like buying a house or something like that. So that Department of Commerce grant is a little complicated, but I went through that with a representative from the Suquamish tribe this morning, and I'm gonna go through that with someone else this afternoon, a local nonprofit here. And if anybody's interested in that, you know, send me an email or pick up the phone and call me, and I'll help walk you through it. Again, it's a little complicated. First time I did one, we had a little help, but Matt Garrett and I did most of it, and I remember, I think we hit the button at like 11:45 p.m. before the midnight deadline. But it's worth doing because this is again part of the advocacy, bringing more money into Kitsap County, especially housing money. And you will never get it unless you apply. Here's a question: does KCR have first-time home buyers money? We don't, but our programs basically are eviction assistance, rental assistance. Will help people get into a home, get into first, last, and a deposit, I should say. But we don't do that. Does first time home buyer workshop? Well, no, we don't. But we partnered with someone who used our facility that does. So if you want that information, there's actually two different organizations that I know of. They're local banks here that have first-time home buyers. So just shoot me an email. Marwan, you know what? Ives at kcr.org. Shoot me an email. I'll just get you in contact with the two representatives. Okay, I'll do that. All right.
That's awesome. Yes, I will put your email there in the chat. Ah, yes, please. Awesome.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, here's my time.
And again, you made it with 3 minutes to spare. So, you know, you always have
Could have gone on.
plenty.
I could have gone on about the data. We could have talked about that for another hour, just drilling it down into the different demographics and the questions. I find it fascinating, and especially when you can hover over the percentage and see how many, and then go to the right and see the comments. It's just great. So
Well, it really is, and it's going to be new for a lot of smaller organizations, and I think it's really helpful to have these conversations where they can watch and say, "Oh, well, I didn't even think about maybe using the data in this way." Like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll try that. I can do that. So,
just consider, Marwan, when you're writing a grant, now you have some data to support that. 48, during the last survey, the needs assessment, 48% of the people in this demographic said this. I'm serious, right?
and it's real current data. It's
Correct.
not 2018. This is current. Yeah,
That's right.
I was thinking that earlier, Tony.
That's what it's for, Marwan. We are here to serve. Okay, we are here to serve.
I love it. I love it. Any final word?
Well, just that everybody have a great holiday. I know the year seems like it's gone really quickly. For me, this is my full year here now, Marwan. So I've been
Wow.
at KCR for 1 year, and yeah, I think that's for me, right?
It is.
But it's important work that we're all doing together as a community. So I appreciate you, Marwan. You know I do.
Well, you as well, and we talked last time. I look forward to kind of hearing your, year in review
Oh yeah,
synopsis.
oh
I think
yeah.
that'll be really powerful. There's a lot that has taken place, so we can definitely see, the impact of you being here and really hitting the ground running. And so that's hard to do, right? Where you're trying to learn and meet everyone and figure out, okay, what do we do? How can we do? How can we innovate? How can we build on what's already working? Oh, and it's during COVID at the same time. So, yeah, fantastic. Absolutely deserve it. Give folks their roses while they're here. So a huge bouquet to you for sure. Um, Yeah, it's awesome. So I look forward to continued conversations with you. If you have any questions for Tony Ives, his email is there, aives at kcr.org. Very accessible. Of course, if you do put in questions or comments later on in the podcast, because many folks will watch this later, I will forward those on to Tony so he has those. And just like I said, reach out. You've got the Christmas Angels community needs assessment. The new one will be coming up. You can just go to the website and see where they're at. Let's see, the next one is not listed here yet, but
Yeah,
they'll pop up as
the,
soon as
the-
they,
yeah. We will be updating that. Okay, because we have three more planned. Hopefully five. Okay.
Yep, absolutely. And don't forget, that's a $25 gift card, food and childcare for those that are participating. So really want to make it accessible for everyone to participate and have their voices heard. And as you can see, you've got the executive director going through the data and reading individual comments. So people are listening, folks that can actually make a difference are listening and they're sharing that data out. They're not just keeping it internal. As Tony said, he's going out to kids at public health and communicating with the board, the things that people have shared and what's important. So this is how change looks, right? This is change in action and it's tangible and it feels really good to see and be a part of. So definitely thank you. We thank Tony for his time. Our normal programming will continue Wednesday, Tipping Points and Puzzle Pieces at 1, Bremerton Housing Authority and KCR at 3 p.m. And then we have the CK school board meeting that evening. And this Friday we will have the NAACP event. There's a lot going on. So if you haven't subscribed, like, and share to the conduit. One last comment. Oh, thanks, Marwan. You're very welcome. And we will see you next time, everyone. All
Cheers.
right.
Bye.